Okay, well, hello. This is Matthew Norton with People Plus Purpose and the People Plus Purpose Coach Certification Training Program. And I am very excited to be with Dr. John Friedmann, who will his own personal story to share with us. And so John was so kind to come on and share kind of transition, kind of a little bit of his background and transition into an exciting new phase and new kind of career opportunity. In fact, it's very fresh, and he was very excited about
Yes.
it today specifically. So John, maybe you can give us just a little bit of background uh, of your career, kind of up to this point, over what period of time and what you've been doing, and then maybe what started to stir you towards something different.
Okay. Background, I've been practicing dentistry for 20 years now. I've owned my own practice for 10 of those 20 years. About 4 years ago, I joined a DSO, which has been great for me. I know it's not for everybody, but it's been great for my practice. But what kind of led me to start looking at transitioning in my career? I do have some health hand issues that had started about 5 years ago. I've had surgeries and this and that. So, long story short, I definitely had to start looking at an exit strategy for myself, which, when first presented with that, was terrifying. It was beyond terrifying. So, what I did was I kind of looked at what maybe I could do after clinical dentistry, and which isn't a long list a lot of times, or at least people think that's not a long list.
Right.
They think they don't have skills that translate into other fields. So what I did is I had an experience with a colleague of mine who was having a really hard time with his practice and just so distraught and upset about what was going on. So I thought, maybe I can just come help, even just if he just vents to me, maybe I can help. So I went to his practice and just observed, just was there as, just a fly on the wall, his friend. I was just hanging out. And so after a couple of days, I sat down with him and just very candidly looked at things in his practice. He implemented some of those systems, and it was just so fulfilling for me. And I had a great time with it. It really felt purposeful. It felt it was very fulfilling for me in
Mm-hmm.
that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did realize that I had to exit clinical dentistry, that's kind of the first thing I thought of. And so that's kind of where I came to where I'm at now, which is when I'm done. Like you said, very recently, this call kind of cemented
Right.
that I'll be actually working for the DSO that purchased my practice. And I'll be working with them as the next phase of my career.
Yeah, that's awesome. So this
Yes.
was both kind of a need-driven shift on the one hand,
Yes.
um, as well as a recognition that there, through that opportunity really that you had with your friend to be able to go, oh, I recognize that there's maybe some skills, strengths that I have here, and I enjoyed that. So it
Mm-hmm.
kind of became needs-driven, but a kind of a beneficial opportunity that began
Mm-hmm.
to look like it opened up for you.
Yes.
Um, so there was a point where you kind of framed that, I'm guessing, to say that maybe that's a coaching capacity that, in a sense, that I'm offering, that I'm moving into in some way.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know at the time that the company would necessarily
Oh, no.
hire
No.
you, but
Right.
you thought, but I do have some things I feel like some wisdom, some insights, some experience that I could share, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what was it that made you kind of finally decide that it was coaching as to how you were framing it? And then maybe how did you end up finding people plus purpose?
Well, I'll kind of start with that, how I found you, which is through a mutual friend of ours, Laura Brenner. She referred me to you because through my work with her is how I found this. Like you said, started out with a need that because of the health issues, we're having to look for this, but also found that my skills, strengths, and you know those kind of things lended me towards a coaching avenue.
Mhm.
Not that it was going to be my only avenue,
Right.
but that could definitely be something that I look into, basically.
Hmm.
So we looked into lots and lots of things. So of course, no, the role that my DSO was, it wasn't even on the table. There wasn't even a position there to apply for,
Right.
in a sense. So it came through, then I, had a conversation with you, and it went very well. And I thought that if I am going to move out of clinical dentistry, what is going to hopefully not only financially help, but fulfill me in a sense that, sometimes in clinical dentistry I didn't have, and so of course, my conversation with you, what I thought of your program that really tied me to it was the way you approached the coaching, because you really had a lot of depth into who am I coaching and who I am and what do I bring to the table and how can I bridge that gap. And for me, so far working together, I've seen some really insights into myself and how my lens can distort the way I see something. So I'm really excited about that because I don't ever want my personal opinions to cloud the what I think of someone else. And so that's kind of how, I got to you, and then why I actually chose to continue or to work with you was because that personalization really spoke to me. And I've had, I've been at practice that had coaching and consultants, and it was very cookie cutter, and it never lasted. So your approach seems lasting. It seems logical, and not without a scientific data based program. And so that's what I liked about it. Also, that spoke to me because it's very data driven and things like that. And that also was, it's kind of a weight off your shoulders, a sense of, oh, okay, I can figure this out
Right.
and I can help someone else. So that's kind of how I got to you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
Yeah.
that. And I'm glad that you found
You're
me.
welcome.
Laura introduced
Yes,
us.
I'm too.
And so it was kind of cool that you didn't even know fully how this was going to play out once it kind of was
No,
like,
not
I
at
think I
all.
want to go in this coaching direction. Maybe it will work as kind of Laura planted that seed of possibility with the DSO to stay with them, which, as
Yes.
it turns out, congratulations, it is going to work. Uh,
Yes. Thank you very much.
but you were also thinking either way, this could be something that would be beneficial because I'm finding in me that I do have something to deliver, and coaching could be a good vehicle for that. So you kind of decided to move forward in us working together, not even having that clarity. Now you've got the good news, like officially,
Yes.
like what, today, this week, today, even.
Today, yeah, that's today. Today was the final interview negotiation was today. So yeah, I found out today that I'll be working with them as mainly as support for the other dentists, not clinical support, but all other types of support. Clinical definitely a part of it, but it's going to be more of support for the doctors in any issues they're having with the company, with their practices, with themselves, with anything. And but no, when you and I first started working together, this was not a done deal at all. Even when I was before I started working with you, it was something that developed, and actually I came to them with, that I'm going to transition out, and I would love to be a part of your company. And it kind of went on from there, and we almost developed the position together, which was exciting,
Yeah.
And then once I did start, it still wasn't concrete when we started talking. So I knew, I needed to be smart. I needed to protect myself. And so I needed, skills that I could take either way.
Right.
So the skills will definitely be a huge part of me working with this DSO, as it turns out, in a role where I might be a mentor to a young dentist. I might be a support system for a seasoned dentist. I might be a clinical resource for someone, but I also wanted to make sure that I had a backup plan
Right.
that, if this wasn't going to work out, then I could still go into a coaching profession
Mhm.
with these skills. So it was a win-win for me.
Yeah.
It was really a no-brainer in my eyes of working with you. It just really wasn't. So it just became, finding the course, and, I found it, I think, with you, but that was really, like I said, a no brainer for me because it's just skills and a skill set and a language that I could use in coaching in this role. But even if it didn't weren't either of those two,
Mhm.
being in a position of leadership, things like that, it can still be beneficial and used almost daily, and with working with teams and people and hiring and all that kind of stuff. So For me, it was just a good, joining of forces either way.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Um, I'm happy that we're connected. I'm happy for
Yes.
you in this next phase. And and I think that there's people who are watching us, listening to this conversation, who are maybe feeling somewhat stuck, or like maybe have a need drive to make a change like you did, or simply like I'm not as inspired as I was, or I feel like there's something different, even part-time different, even like
Yeah.
or even to prepare for some future transition, or
Yes.
to
Yes.
even, like you say, add additional leadership skill sets and to be able to guide a team more effectively. So I
Mhm.
think one of the main things I'm taking away from our conversation is that there are many possibilities, and that sometimes we can get stuck and not really know exactly where to go next. And so I'm just happy that you persisted until you found what was that right next thing. So
Right. And it's very true that it can be very isolating. Um, especially in a situation like I'm a one doctor practice. Um, and if you start getting those feelings, mine was a need base, but I'm also not really sure if it wouldn't have happened anyway, because there were, times of myself feeling very burned out and very stuck.
right,
And basically, dentist out there, if you're listening to me, whether you join this or not, you're not. Your skill set can translate to many, many, many different things, but sometimes you might need a little help figuring that out. And so that's when, Matthew, your course, it can be applied even if it's for burnout, or how, maybe they're so stressed out of their job because of their team, and so I think that can really help them be better leaders, move into another phase of their career, or help maybe mitigate some of that burnout and stress that's going on with them. So I hope that anybody out there listening that feels that way really reaches out to anyone, for help, because that's the first step. You got to do that, and then there's work behind it, but you can definitely get there. If I can, a lot of people can, for sure. And I want to apologize for my turnaround picture in the back. I didn't realize it was back there, so I apologize.
Thank you, John. I appreciate your time. Appreciate the
You're welcome.
opportunity to work together. For those watching who might want to know more about the People Plus Purpose Coach Certification Training, please feel free to reach out to me. Uh, Dr. Norton at peoplepluspurpose.com, Dr. Norton at peoplepluspurpose.com. Happy to have a conversation and see if we might be a fit. So thank you, John.
You're very welcome.
Okay, talk to you
Bye
soon.
bye. You
Okay,
too. Bye
bye.
bye.